Yo, good day, good day, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. You're at Easy Does It with Mike Roro, baby. Yo, we are so glad to have you yet again. And like always, man, listen, I need this saying to gain some traction out there in the world, man. You ready? Another day, another blessing, everybody. We are alive. Man, we are alive. We have another opportunity to get our lives right, our lives together with our family, make things right, with our loved ones, our friends. Most importantly, with God, man, we are alive. So, again, I just want to thank you. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for taking the time to roll with Mikey Roro, baby. So, you already know what it is. Easy does it. This is just a community for recovery, a community where we can come and talk about addiction and the different types of addictions that we have out there, the different forms of addictions, opinions, just to come. It's a community for conversation. It's a community for growth. It's a community to get together. All right. Now, I am not a professional. I'm a professional addict, right? I'm a professional alcoholic. I'm a I'm a professional right now individual just seeking the truth and growing and desiring a life of sobriety. And in that desire, I'm learning so much, man. I'm putting myself in position to just grow and absorb knowledge, man. Wisdom is power. So, just want to thank you again for joining Easy Does It. We got a good show today. It's going to be a short one. It's going to be a short show, a sweet show. And the title itself for today's show is Addictions Begin with Trauma. All addictions begin with trauma, some form of trauma. We're going to get into that. But like always, I want to do a shout out. I have to do a shout out. Again, this is, well, not again, this is the first time I mention it. This is the second episode. And the second episode of Easy Does It. But I want to acknowledge the two groups that, helped get me on the right track. And first of all, shout out to Boca Recovery. I went to the one in Jersey. It is a large, I believe they have two or three places. I could be wrong. I do know that they're building a larger facility, double the size of the one that I went to. But the staff was amazing. Counselors amazing. Just the whole program was amazing. Shout out to them. The medical team was amazing in just educating me on the different types of meds and things that they do for different scenarios, different individuals, different types of drug addictions. Shout out to them. Shout out to the chefs. There was two chefs. Amazing. I mean, just everything about the place was amazing. You go to these places and I'm gonna get back into that, but my second one to shout out. Let me stay on Boca. Now, shout out to Boca because I'm gonna tell you when I first went in my head, I'm thinking like, man, where am I going? Where I'm gonna be in this place full of crazies. No, I'm not gonna do it. And this is where our sick minds first start to work. We think of all the excuses not to go. We think of all the reasons. We think of it all. The fears and man, I gotta share a room. I gotta be with these folks. And you start looking at things a certain way. And so the moment I got there to Boca, they were welcoming. Team was welcoming and felt safe. And hats off, man. They made me feel really comfortable. Really, they welcomed me. They were amazing, man. They were great at explaining how things work. I got there late in the evening, and in my head, I'm like, man, I should have got something to eat. They probably don't have no food. Nope, they had plenty of food, plenty of snacks throughout the whole night. So they really went above and beyond to take care of the clientele there. So hats off to them. And from there, I went over to All In Solution, man. All In Solution, another great and wonderful place. I mean, even now that I haven't been there for some time, they keep reaching out, checking in, seeing how I'm doing. You know, and of course, they have a department in that for itself, but just staff members reaching out and just, hey, Mike, what's going on? So they're enjoying the show, those that are listening and being a part of it. Man, yo, shout out to the recovery community, man. For those that are out there really putting the work in and carrying the message, like Bill W says with the 12-step AA, carrying a message. Shout out to you guys. Thank you. Thank you. But hats off. Hats off. So let's jump right into the program. And like the title says, man, today we're going to be talking about addiction, beginning with traumas, man. There's so many different types of addictions out there. There's substance abuse, there's the drugs, there's the alcohol, but many people don't even talk about the activity types of addictions. There are people that get into some addictions that are like, you can, if you really think about it, you can be addicted to the gym, pornography, physical activities of some sort. I mean, an addiction is just an addiction that ultimately just keeps you doing something. Like, oh, let's see, like, how can I break this down? What's the best way to break it down, dumb it down? So an addiction, let's just say it's any behavior. Let's just think about it like this: any behavior that a person, individual, enjoys, any behavior, or any behavior that you find relief, that ultimately causes a craving in like the short term, but then ultimately suffers negative consequences in the long term. So that's like drinking. Drinking for me was, pleasure in the the short term. It was pleasurable. It was like a social lubricant. You made you laugh, joke, all of that. But there were a lot of negative consequences in the long term. And then on top of that, like you just don't want to give it up. Or with all of those negativities, you just do not want to give it up. That's like an addiction, man. And, there's some help folks out there that, even with the gym, you can overdo the gym. There's nothing wrong with being healthy, jumping in the gym, exercising A, B, and C, but you got some folks that overdo it, jump into different supplements, whether they're legal or illegal. And, if it's done outside, if it's not done in moderation, it's a problem. So again, like basically there's pleasure in the short term. Pleasure in the short term. If we just reflect on when we started, whatever your addiction is or was, when you first reflect on it, when you first did it, you first jumped onto it, there was pleasure. There was a lot of pleasurable moments, experiences, which we enjoyed. Boom, got us hook, line, and sinker. I mean, I can't be the only one to admit that. But then, after it's all said and done, you're desiring now, instead of that one hit, instead of that one beer, instead of that one shot, making you feel nice, you got to have two. And then from two, you got to have three. And so on and so forth. It keeps increasing and increasing. And the reality is you're desiring that pleasurable moment that now you can't find. Now you are literally drinking a 12 pack, a 24 pack, half a gallon of some kind of hard liquor, and you're done. And remember, we don't give it up because we don't give it up despite all the negatives that take place. Man, that's an addiction, bro. That's a crazy addiction. And like I said, man, it's not just a substance. It's an activity. It's certain activities that we get involved in. Nobody really pays attention to that, man. Some people just quickly label and say, man, they drugs, they're alcohol. That's crazy. Me, I'm into this, I'm into that. It ain't nothing. It ain't hurting nobody. It's hurting you. It's hurting you. So now, who is it? The American Society of Addiction Med. They pretty much describe addiction, not describe, excuse me, define addiction. So, addiction is a primary brain disorder that arises in the brain largely due to genetic reasons. Now, I'm not a professional, but this one is interesting. And just getting into the game and reading and trying to understand, when I hear genetics, I understand the concept. I really do. I definitely understand the genetics. And for those of you that may not know, and again, those of you that know, hey, I'm dumbing down everything and trying to simplify everything for my own understanding and to give the basic understanding for others. And I am very welcoming to any knowledge and correction. So feel free. But genetic reasoning, right? So genetics is the study of how genes and how traits are passed down from one generation to the next. All right. So again, genetics is the study of how genes and how traits are passed down from one generation to the next. I believe that's really simple to understand. You know, um, you got inherited traits. What are some good examples of inherited traits? Traits like eye color, blood type, hair color. Those are those kind of genes. They're responsible for traits like that. Are genes genes, not blue genes. Not ripped genes, but the genes inside of us. Also, there's genetic disorders that take place. Some illnesses and diseases can be passed down. Um, Down syndrome. What's the other one? My goodness, I believe it's called Fragile X syndrome. Fragile X syndrome. And again, all this stuff is new. I'm learning all of this stuff and how things are passed down and what have you through genetics. Even the sex determination chromosomes, right? You got the sex chromosomes that are determined whether a baby will be male or female, right? And the females have the two X chromosomes, while males have one X and one Y chromosome. And it's really unfortunate. There's so much stuff going on in the world, man. That's with the new generation that really does. I mean, just just how things are trying to change right before our eyes. It's mind blowing. But science has proven, right? For those of you that like science, and this females have two X chromosomes, males have one X and one Y. Also, you have your behavior genetics, right? Like there's some studies that show um, how genetic variations affect psychological traits like personality and cognitive abilities and stuff, mental illness and all of that stuff. So there's as far as the American Society and addiction, again, what they say is addiction is a primary brain disorder that arises in the brain largely due to genetic reasons, basically passed down genetically. Now, I in the past few months have totally witnessed or totally come to the understanding that addiction really is like addiction is not the main issue. The main issue is mental. It is a mental disorder. I'm starting to see that each and every day that I study, each and every day that I'm into all of this, I just can't get over how much of this is mental. I really can't. And it's mind blowing to me. It really is. It's eye opening. It's awakening, and I'm definitely excited that I'm seeing it from this perspective. So but again, getting back, like I said, American Society of Addiction. That's what they feel, or that's their definition. But then another one, the popular idea throughout society is that addiction is a choice. The popular society is states like, man, you just choose, just stop. You don't need to do it, just stop. That's like the most common thing. And for those of you that are on your journey to recovery, I think it really does kind of bother some to hear those that don't have issues with addiction and those that never had issues with the drugs and the alcohol to say those kind of comments because they just don't know. If I could stop, I would. You know, I believe they say 10% of alcoholics. Well, I take that back. Rewind. I think society, there's only about 10% that deal with alcohol as an allergen. I believe that's the word. And the combination of, or the mixture of the alcohol and that, like, it's crazy. And there's just this certain way that the body works with 10%, and I'm starting to understand it. I really am. Like my wife literally, she can have a glass of wine and it'll take her like 5 days to finish one glass. I'm like, what the hell, man? Drink that bottle. You ain't done yet? Like, now starting to understand how that works. The light goes off. I'm one of those I can't have. I'll never be able to have just a sip, just a taste, just a cup, just one. No. And I'm good with that. Now that I understand it, now that I understand the reasoning behind it all. But for those of us that are on the road to recovery and experience it, and it doesn't feel really well. And that's why these meetings are good to go to. That's why go to groups, talk about it in the group, vent, get your point across, hear what others have to say, hear how others handle it. Them AA groups and meetings and 12-step programs, the traditions, the fellowship, the camaraderie, it is big. It is very helpful, extremely helpful. And you know what? I was one of those that I was born and raised in the church. No, let me take that back. I was raised in the church, wasn't born and raised. Know a lot about the scriptures, and I kind of frowned upon AA and all of that because one, I didn't know, I didn't have an understanding of really what it was, and my father being a drug addict, it never worked for him. So I just had a negative outlook, and in my head it was always God. God is the one to change me, and God is going to give me the strength. And I was totally blinded. I blinded myself to see that God also made it possible for AA and the programs and the steps and using Bill W.'s story. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear and don't like to admit, but Bill W. and the doctor, they got all of this stuff from they're biblical principles. So I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but they're biblical principles. And no matter what you say, it's the God of your own understanding and biblical principles. And I won't even argue that because they're helpful. They're helpful. But it's great to be in these programs, and it's great to chop it up with the fellas, But let's talk about trauma real quick. Now, trauma. I know I believe I mentioned in the last podcast, but people often think that trauma is something, or what happens to you, like in a physical sense, or sexual abuse, right? Like, yeah, that's trauma. That's a traumatic experience. There's other stuff, like you can have a single mom dealing with depression, parents on alcohol, you know, all of those physical things, they're traumatic. They're traumatic experiences that happen. But it's not the action that I'm here to discuss, briefly. It's not the traumatic action, but it's really the trauma that's happening inside of you that's the issue. And that let me ask you, what happens inside of you? That's the question. With all of these traumatic experiences, how are you, especially as a young child that's dealing with someone, a drug abusive parent, an alcoholic parent, poverty stricken, living in the inner city community, prostitution, seeing a parent in prostitution, death. How is your body dealing within these traumatic experiences? You when you're living in it constantly, you pretty much get disconnected from your own body, if that makes sense. You get disconnected from your emotions. It becomes difficult, like being in the present moment. You develop negative viewpoints on the world. These things are all inside. The most important one, like for myself, was I developed a negative view of myself. Man, I had no confidence. I was nothing. I wasn't good enough. I couldn't measure up. I couldn't compare. And then when family would talk highly about my brother and he'd never give me nothing, like that just validated me not, viewing myself as any good. You also, like, you become defensive. You have this defensive view of other people, man. It's amazing. Like, listen to what I'm telling you. Some of you, just simply because you don't have that alcohol or drug addiction, we've all been through these hurts. We've all been through some kind of traumatic experience that causes us deep down inside to have these negative viewpoints in all aspects, to question ourselves, to question our ability. You could be somebody that you can be somebody that was broken when you were young. You talked about people made fun of your weight, uh, just put you down physically, and now you're a health fanatic. You're gonna, like, I'm gonna teach them. Don't and nobody's ever gonna call me chubby again. And that's your addiction. See, this is how it works, and many of us don't even realize what's happening. So this is where I'm starting to understand. And feel free, while you're listening to this, leave a comment, send an email, drop it. But so here's what I'm saying, an addiction. So the addiction itself is not the primary problem. The addiction is simply an attempt to solve the problem. It really is. So I want to show you a quick video. Just a quick video. It's 50 seconds of New York. Yes, you already know I'm from New York. Love New York. I believe this area is Harlem or Uptown, or it's simply just a couple of videos put into a few seconds. And it is heartbreaking, but as a recovering addict, I see something different in these individuals. As a recovering addict, I do see that they ran to an addiction to try to help solve their problem. There was positive, there was the positive pleasures in the short term, which led to the negative in the long term, and which ultimately led them to not giving it up despite all of the negatives. So let's just watch a couple of seconds of this. Amazing. Amazing. And what I see is a group of people who went through traumatic experiences in their lives. And their environment, their example, what they had was to run to addiction for that brief pleasure in dealing in their hurts. Now, you're going to hear me always say this. This is all mental. The sick mind is what pushes us, is what filters every thought into running to addiction because that is the easy way out. Drugs, alcohol, it's the easy way out. And it's just like I see it. I hope and I pray that I can actually, with your help in this podcast, reach as many people as I can so they can hear me say that it's going to be all right. Let's work on this together. Let's work on this together. So the real question to you, for me, for everybody listening is, how did the problem arrive in the first place? How did the problem, where this traumatic experience, where did it come from? When did it come from? And I'm starting to see, and I'm starting to really understand and realize that addiction is rooted in childhood trauma. It is rooted in childhood trauma, man. And now the attack, and we see it in society nowadays, the attack is always on the young generation. Get them when they're young, and they'll deal with this issue for the rest of their life. And this is where I want us over here at Easy Does It to just conversate about these things, everybody. Conversate about it. Some folks may be embarrassed. Hey, I thank God I'm transparent. I'm throwing my business out there. I want to talk about it. I want to learn. But ultimately, like I'm saying this, how did the problem arrive in your life? Where did it come from? And I have to say this, addiction is an attempt to deal with this childhood trauma that we've been through. But guys, you ready for this? It only works temporarily. It only works. Listen, I don't care how old you are. If you've been in addiction for whatever amount of years, the proof is in the pudding. Addiction on whatever you've done has only worked temporarily. And what has it done? It's created more problems in the long term. People lost their families, their loved ones, their jobs, their way of life, all for addiction, all because of addiction. It works temporarily in the beginning. It gives that pleasure for that short amount of time. It drowns it out for that short amount of time. But if we don't learn how to actually deal with the trauma, attack the trauma, get it from the root and pull it out, and we continue in that addiction, it creates more problems in the long term. It creates more problems in the long terms. All right? Thank you again for watching and tagging along with us over here at Easy Does It. I hope you enjoyed the show. Leave a comment. Leave anything. Listen, hit that subscribe button. Be a part of us. We want you to enjoy the journey with us. And we hope you've been enjoying it so far, right? So you take care and listen. All of you that are struggling, just for today. You don't have to drink. You don't have to drug. Just for today. That's it. Don't focus about tomorrow. Don't focus on a month from now. Just for today. And when it gets crazy and your mind is going crazy and you're getting worked up, just remember, whoa. Easy does it, big fella. Whoa. Easy does it, young lady. Whoa. Don't forget, easy does it. See you next time. Peace.